Penn State football landed a commitment yesterday, and as you can see, our experts have been out living their lives. Ryan is at the beach. Fitz was out and about yesterday. So here we are, maybe a day later, but still giving you the information you seek, giving you the knowledge on the latest commitment. So Fitz, I'm going to come to you to start this off. Who did Penn State get yesterday, picking him up out of the pool of uncommitted players left here in June?
Yes, on Wednesday evening, Penn State added another player in the secondary about 8 p.m. Antonio Branch, safety from South Florida. He's listed as a corner by On3, but I think he projects as a safety. If you look at his tape, he plays a lot of safety. 4-star, like right on the edge of a 4-star there in the On3 industry rankings. Number 400 overall, number 36 corner, number 55 in Florida. On3 has him a little bit lower as 88, 3-star. Number 54 corner, number 61 in Florida. So this is a guy that came up, and all credit to Ryan on this one in terms of like sniffing this one out. He was coming up for the first weekend of official visits, and Ryan was it was like digging around there that weekend. He had his inside lash. He's like, hey, don't be surprised, Antonio Branch. This is a guy that's been very high on Penn State. He hasn't visited a ton of schools, but he wanted to get out and see some more schools this month, and I think he was close to committing before he stepped foot on campus. Like, Ryan, would you agree with that?
Yeah, it was right there. I mean, pretty much the way it was explained to me, he pretty much just held off because mom and dad were saying, "Hey, you got to visit in 3 weeks. Like, let's maybe not rush into this." But during the May-April contact period, I believe Penn State. I'm not sure which coaches specifically were down there, but I know they had a really good meeting. Of course, they can meet with 2025 guys now. That's a new rule change this year. And really, I don't know, maybe about a week after that, we started getting word that he was seriously considering a commitment at that time. And, as things went on, of course, mom and dad wanted to make sure, let's go see the school first because he had never visited Penn State. That's kind of important, right? So can't blame parents for that mindset there. But, yeah, I mean, as soon as he got on campus, I mean, I thought there was a real chance he would probably commit right after or shortly after, we'll say. He ended up waiting a little bit longer. He didn't take that Florida visit. Did he take another official visit, Sean? He was supposed to go to Louisville. Do you know if he went anywhere else?
He was supposed to go to Louisville this weekend. Yeah, he was supposed to go to Louisville this weekend. He was supposed to go to Florida last weekend. Didn't go to Florida. So like he kind of not completely shut it down, but I don't want to say he's been on board for a while, but like he's been giving intentions that are like professing his intentions that he was going to go to Penn State for a while. He went to Nebraska in the spring, so he had an official visit, but like we're so like locked into June that we don't really think about the April official visits. Again, he still has got on his profile he's going to Louisville this weekend. I don't expect that trip to happen. Of course, familiar with Miami and some of those schools, which I think will keep an eye on him throughout the season. It's tough to overlook a Booker T. Washington kid, especially if you're Miami, because they're in it every year. So yeah, I mean that's kind of what we're looking at with Antonio Branch. Felt good going into the visit, felt better coming out of the visit, and then I hit up some people earlier this week, and they expected him to announce next week after his Louisville visit. Didn't make it to that. I put in a pick for him at the beginning of the week. If you're on Blue White. You knew this one was coming. So yeah, another step in that secondary book. So it's a good pickup in the sense I think he's got a lot of potential. I think he's still, rail thin. 6'2" is just about right. 6'1.5", 6'2", 175, really good length. Guy that's going to have maybe that. I don't want to put him on the Zakee Wheatley path, but like I think the best bet with him is to start him at corner and then maybe roll back and he's interesting and eventually change him to safety. Here's my thought on that, T. Frank. Like if you're not like, so Vabu Torre is a safety all the way. Dejan safety all the way. But if you're not that guy that's going to play right away, like why wouldn't you put him at corner like you did with Wheatley, like you did with a couple other guys? KJ Winston, I think, started at corner, just doing some things that they needed him to do to learn coverage, because eventually when you're going to play in that 3 safety role, you're going to be playing slot corner. You're going to be playing nickel or whatever it's going to be. So I think that the best bet there for Branch would be to maybe make him a corner, and then after his first season, because I don't think he's an immediate impact guy, after his first season, switch him over and play him in his future position.
They did the same with Lamont Payne, by the way, too.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a second. We'll show you the highlight film. I do want to ask one thing, because this is a situation where the data says one thing in terms of where he ranks as an athlete in the On3 industry rankings. I think there is some difference between the position he'll play and honestly the position he plays in high school. He plays safety in high school, but he's ranked as a corner. So maybe some of the things you just mentioned fits. But when you look at Anthony Poindexter's track record, 3-star guy, I mean, I feel like there's a lot of room and potential for growth here. Fitz. Or sorry, Ryan, I want to come to you with this one. Just you've talked to Poindexter about this multiple times. The size, the length, all those things seem to be there. So the building blocks of an athlete to be maybe outplay his current ranking, they all seem to be there, especially if a guy like Poindexter wants him. Is that fair?
I think it was ranking. I mean, we're just missing a lot of information, right? I mean, so how many of those top guys, Sean, do we have information on? Yeah, I think that's a big part of it.
Yes, T. Frank asked this question a couple weeks ago. It's like, hey, we don't have a ton of information on some of these top guys that Penn State's going after. Well, if you think about it, when they're a top guy, they kind of, I don't want to say shy away from camps, but you don't go to as many camps, you don't get as many numbers and things like that. And then there's other guys that just kind of stay away from that because they don't want to test. Because, you know, if you test and you test poorly, there's ramifications there. So, and this is a completely side conversation, not to go with Antonio Branch, but yeah, we don't have those numbers, but we do have the size numbers. We do have the length numbers. It's interesting that Dex likes big safeties. He doesn't look like a big safety because he's 6'2", because he's 175 right now, but he's 6'2", like he's close to 6'2", and he's going to fill out and eventually be a guy that fits into that room in terms of height. So yeah, curious to see, like, this is a kid that's going to blow up in a college weight program. He's going to be probably 190 by the time he gets to campus, and then probably over 200 pounds as a redshirt freshman. So I don't have concerns about like filling out nutrition, all that kind of stuff at a place like Penn State. Now, concerns I have, he does he plays safety. There's a little corner tackling in there. Like he's a drop to the ground and grab him type guy. I don't think that's a hip drop tackle, but I still don't know what a hip drop tackle actually is. So it's a situation where you're curious about the physicality as compared to some of the guys that Dex has brought in. Yeah, like a Torre. Dejan Lane was interesting because I felt like I had a similar criticism about him after watching a full game. But I mean, I think you kind of have that. But Dejan Lane is faster, bigger, and I mean he's a guy I'm curious to see if he's going to play as a freshman. So, but Branch gives you some coverage skills. Of course, he plays in Florida, which is a double-edged sword in terms of like he plays some great competition. But he also is in South Florida, so Penn State's going to have to keep an eye on him because that's just how the world works these days. So we'll see what happens with Antonio Branch. I think it's a guy that a lot of people in that building like. The safety class with Kainoa Winston and Jadon Blair leading the charge in terms of top targets is changing. Like the landscape of that is changing. Of course, Winston committed to Michigan. Blair, I would still say, is a Notre Dame lean. He's got a big official visit this weekend, but you're seeing names pop up like Branch, like Braswell Thomas, who's going to be on campus this weekend. So the landscape of that safety position has changed a little bit.
Yeah, the one thing I'll say, and I'm just echoing what you said earlier, Fitz, is when you watch his film, it is obvious this is a guy who's underpowered when he runs. The movement skills look good, but it just looks like it's happening in slow motion. So putting that weight on will make him faster and more explosive. And where he doesn't really jump off the tape to you from an athletic standpoint, all the building blocks are there, and you just think if you just put a couple more RPMs, you put a little more horsepower under the hood, and this is a guy who then pops off the film a little better because at 175, you're right, he looks super skinny. The other thing I've mentioned, and I want to see more of him in his full game film, is he plays tight end a lot. He lines up as a tight end. So does he block? What is his physicality? What is his strength at this size look like as a blocker? I'm not looking for pancakes. I'm just looking for, hey, is there something more there than we're seeing? Because a lot of that stuff is receptions. And then on the other side, he plays in a pretty sophisticated high school defense. So he's got an understanding of off coverage, off man coverage, some quarters elements, and the ability to, as you saw there, I think that's the biggest thing for Poindexter is being able to explode and close on the ball in underneath, rally to the football. I think he's a willing tackler, but you're right. The tackling technique needs to get better, where he needs to not be diving at ankles and putting wrapping up a little bit more. That one's obvious from his highlight film. So I like the potential. This class is all about betting on the upside of these athletes, where you've got players that are 3 stars. Maybe they're a tight end that they're going to play tackle later. Ryan, I know I've talked to you a lot about this in terms of this particular class, but now that we're getting a full sense of what it is, now that we zoom out from Antonio Branch to the secondary and then the class at large, what are your opinions? What are your feelings of it now that we've got we're getting close to 20 commits in this class now, right?
It's 16, I believe is what is the number now.
Rounding up.
Yeah. 2 more defensive backs, I would think, is the goal. Certainly another safety, I think, is certainly high on Poindexter's list. Look, if they can get Brandon Finney, they're going to add Brandon Finney. Outside of him, I'm not sure exactly where they go at corner, but we'll get. I think we'll get into it a little bit more when we look at the guys who are visiting this weekend. But a lot of the offensive positions. I mean, tight end, obviously they're at list, but like for the most part, even if they miss on him, I think they're happy with Matt. Obviously, they're happy at running back, happy at quarterback. They would love to add another offensive tackle, and of course, wide receiver has to be sorted out. But to me, it's all about getting defensive line sorted out. And really wide receiver. I think those are the 2 things that once those dominoes start falling, you'll see this class at 20, 22 commits pretty quick.
So if you want more of that, check out bluewhiteillustrated.com. As always, please like and subscribe here on the YouTube channel. We appreciate everyone being here as we discuss Antonio Branch. We'll be back with more of these breaking news and commitment videos when all of that happens. And of course, you can check out our Blue White Illustrated live show that is Tuesday through Thursday here on the YouTube channel.